My ex-wife's new husband kept driving through my garden, destroying my flowers. I spoke to my ex-wife, but she laughed and said, "Men will be men. My new husband is a real man." One morning, I woke up to find my entire yard trampled and my fence kicked down. Furious, I set a trap. The next night, I heard screaming, and when my ex-wife saw what I had done, she nearly fainted. Flowers, fences, and disrespect. After the divorce, I poured all my pain into rebuilding my life. And that began with my garden. It wasn't just a hobby. That little patch of earth became my sanctuary. A peaceful retreat where I could escape the memories of a failed marriage. Every rose I planted, every vine I trained up the trellis, every stone pathway, they all symbolized the healing I was working toward. My neighbors admired the view. Some even brought their kids to take pictures near the lavender hedge. Then one day, it all began to unravel. I first noticed tire tracks, deep ones, across the corner of my lawn. I thought it was a mistake. Maybe someone had reversed out of the driveway poorly. I patched the grass, reset the brick edging, and moved on. But the next time was worse. Fresh tire tracks, crushed tulips, and a section of my white picket fence splintered. And parked across the street, grinning at me from behind the wheel of a brand new truck, was him, Jake, my ex-wife's new husband, the guy she had cheated with, the guy she claimed was more of a man than I'd ever be. I marched across the road and knocked on their door. My ex-wife, Melissa, answered with a smug smile, arms folded like she was expecting me. "Jake's been driving through my yard," I said bluntly. "He crushed my plants, broke my fence." She laughed, an actual full-body chuckle, and said, "Men will be men. Besides, Jake's a real man. Maybe he's just helping you toughen up." I stared at her in disbelief. "No," I replied coldly. "He's helping me build a case." She rolled her eyes and slammed the door in my face. I wish it ended there. But the next morning, I walked outside and my entire yard was ruined. Everything I'd nurtured for months trampled. My roses shredded, my koi pond cracked and leaking. The new fence posts pulled up. I could still smell the diesel fumes. He had driven straight through the yard like it was a battlefield and he was conquering it. That's when something inside me snapped. They thought I was soft, but they forgot who I used to be. The man. They underestimated Jake and Melissa. Thought I was harmless, a pushover, quiet, polite, and still licking my wounds from the divorce. But before I ever became the mild-mannered man they knew, I was a systems engineer for a private security firm. I specialized in perimeter defense, motion sensors, night vision cameras, silent alerts. I'd walked away from that life after the marriage, hoping to embrace peace over control. But now I was done turning the other cheek. I took a week off work and started reinforcing my property like a fortress. But not obviously. No barbed wire, no keep-out signs. I wanted Jake to feel safe right up until the trap closed. I replaced the broken sections of my fence with reinforced steel posts disguised as wood, drilled deep into concrete, and camouflaged. Next, I lined the edges of the driveway and garden with discreet spike strips that retracted into the ground with a remote signal just in case he tried another stunt. Then I installed motion-sensitive night cameras and buried vibration sensors beneath the soil like we used to in off-grid installations. I knew the weight profile of Jake's truck now, so I could trigger alerts only when his wheels hit my yard. And the final piece, a small set of tire puncturing devices, not random spikes, but custom-welded steel blades hidden just beneath a thin patch of dirt on the exact path Jake had taken multiple times. By Friday night, everything was ready. I sat on my porch sipping tea like it was any other evening. The street was quiet. The neighborhood asleep. I had a security app open on my phone, waiting for the ping. 1:24 a.m., the alert chimed softly. Heavy vehicle detected. Right perimeter, zone 3. I didn't even flinch. The camera showed it all. Jake's truck creeping down the street, lights off, engine idling low. He was doing it again. I could see him smirking from the dashcam. He turned hard onto my property like he owned it. Then I heard it. Shrike. KRK truck jolted. Tires screamed. The front axle dropped into the shallow trench I disguised, sending his bumper crashing into the spikes beneath. His left tire burst, the right shredded on impact, and the entire front undercarriage was ruined. He tried to reverse. Bad idea. The moment he backed up, the hidden rear strip activated, puncturing both back tires. Now the truck was stuck, grounded, leaking fluids, and with all 4 tires ruined. Steam hissed. A horrible grinding noise followed. Then came the screaming from Jake. Not just from pain, but panic. I calmly walked outside in my robe, flashlight in hand. He was already out of the truck, limping and cursing. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. "You sabotaged me. I could sue." I stood at the edge of my lawn, arms folded. "You've been trespassing, vandalizing my property and threatening my safety." This was a deterrent and it worked. He snarled and limped toward me. "I'll call the cops." "You should," I said. Because I already did. His face drained of color. When the police arrived, as Jake stood frozen in my yard, I could hear the distant wail of sirens growing louder. He glanced back at his destroyed truck, then at me, realization hitting him like a freight train. This wasn't a prank. This was a setup. No, this was justice. I had everything recorded, the tire treads matching previous incidents, timestamped footage of him driving onto my property multiple times over the last 2 weeks, and audio of my calm voice warning him during our last conversation. If this continues, I will handle it myself. He laughed then. He wasn't laughing now. The patrol car rolled up seconds later, headlights sweeping across the mangled front of Jake's truck. 2 officers stepped out, hands resting near their belts. One of them, Officer Cruz, had responded to my previous complaints about the vandalism. He recognized me immediately. "Mr. Wallace," Cruz said, nodding. "We got your call. Everything all right?" I pointed toward Jake. "He's the one who's been driving through my garden. I've filed 3 reports tonight." He came back. Jake was about to interrupt, but Cruz raised a hand. "Sir, you're on private property and you look like you've done some serious damage." "That lunatic planted traps," Jake yelled. "He ruined my truck." I pulled out a flash drive from my pocket, the one I'd prepared earlier that day. "Here's the footage from my home security system. You'll see him driving onto my lawn in the past, and tonight intentionally trespassing again. I've already emailed a backup to the station." The other officer reviewed the footage on a tablet I offered, his brows furrowed. "This is pretty clear," he said. "And these devices were underground." "Yes," I nodded. "Hidden, but within legal boundaries. They're non-lethal deterrents on my property." Jake's voice rose again. "He ambushed me. This is entrapment." "You're not a criminal suspect being tricked into confession," Officer Cruz said coolly. "You're a grown man who's been warned repeatedly to stay off private property. And now you're the one in cuffs." Jake's mouth fell open. "What?" "Turn around." Click. It wasn't long before Melissa arrived, her SUV screeching to a halt on the street. She jumped out wearing pajama pants and a silk robe, confusion all over her face, until she saw Jake in handcuffs. "What the hell is going on?" she shrieked. I didn't say anything. Officer Cruz calmly explained, "Trespassing, destruction of property, documented repeated offenses." She turned to me, eyes narrowing. "You really had to go this far, Mike?" "No," I said quietly. "You did when you laughed in my face the first time I asked for basic respect. And when he destroyed my fence?" Her face flushed. She turned to Jake, who was fuming and trying to argue with the officers, looking more pathetic with every word. Then she slapped him right there hard across the face. "You said it was just a joke," Jake snarled. "This is your fault. You said he wouldn't do anything." "Wrong," I finally said, stepping forward. "I didn't do something. I did everything right. Public humiliation and legal consequences." The next morning, the story was already spreading through our suburban neighborhood like wildfire. Apparently, one of the neighbors had filmed the entire arrest and posted it in a local Facebook group. The video caption read, "Man repeatedly trashes ex-wife's garden, ends up caught in the most epic way by her calm, collected ex-husband. Karma at its finest." Within hours, it had over 12,000 views and counting. Jake spent the night in a holding cell. He was released on bail the next afternoon, but not before being officially charged with criminal mischief, trespassing, and property destruction. And because I had years' worth of property damage estimates, official complaints, and footage, the case wasn't going to be brushed aside. But the most unexpected part, his employer saw the video. Jake was a mid-level manager at a construction firm known for its professionalism and community-first values. The viral footage along with his arrest record didn't exactly align with that image. By Monday morning, Jake was suspended without pay pending review. Melissa stormed into my front yard later that afternoon, red in the face. "You ruined his career." "No," I replied calmly. "He did that himself. I just pressed record." She tried to argue, throwing out every guilt trip in the book about her reputation, her embarrassment, her mother asking questions. "You humiliated us," she screamed. I smiled gently. "No, Melissa. You humiliated yourselves. I just stopped letting it slide." 2 weeks later, my lawyer filed for a permanent restraining order against Jake. The judge, after reviewing the evidence, granted it almost immediately. Jake was now legally forbidden to come within 500 feet of me, my property, or my son's school. What's more, he had to pay restitution. The judge ordered him to cover the damages to my garden, fence, and landscaping, a total of $8,200. And when Jake tried to smirk and say he'd just declare bankruptcy, my attorney handed the judge another document, a civil suit, one that would attach his wages no matter where he worked. Jake's face turned pale. Melissa looked like she was about to throw up. The final twist, the garden party. With the restraining order in place, my property finally knew peace. No more tire tracks, no more crushed petals, and definitely no more arrogant laughter echoing from Jake's truck. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted a celebration, a moment to reclaim everything they'd tried to destroy. Not just my garden, but my dignity, my peace, and the home I'd rebuilt for myself and my son. So, I planned something special. I invited all my neighbors, friends, and colleagues to a Saturday garden party. The theme: resilience in bloom, floral decorations, string lights, fresh lemonade, music, joy, and at the center of it all, the rebuilt flower beds now twice as vibrant: roses, tulips, lavender, even an elegant fountain where the old fence used to stand. I'd hired a landscaper to transform the place completely. But one thing stood out the most: a beautifully carved wooden sign that now sat on the front lawn surrounded by bionas. It read, "To those who trample beauty, beware the roots run deep." People chuckled when they saw it, especially those who had seen the viral video. Some even took selfies next to it. 2 days before the party, I received word Jake had been fired. His company couldn't afford the PR mess anymore. Melissa, well, her social life tanked. She became the subject of side eyes at the PTA, snubbed at book club, and quietly removed from the neighborhood association committee she once bragged about. She tried to sell the story to a tabloid to paint herself as the victim, but the media didn't bite. The footage and community support made it clear they were the aggressors. That evening at the party, just as the sun was setting, a woman approached me. Mid-40s, kind eyes, nervous smile. "You don't know me," she said, "but I'm Jake's ex-wife before Melissa." I froze, she continued. "I just wanted to thank you. What you did, you showed people what he really is. He ruined years of my life. I couldn't prove half of what he did. But you did it with grace." We stood quietly for a moment before she added, "It's about time someone planted the right kind of seeds." Epilogue. Seeds of peace. Roots of justice. A full year had passed since Jake last set foot or tire on my property. The garden had never looked better. Every corner was thriving with color. Butterflies danced around the lavender bushes, and the wooden sign still stood proudly on the lawn, now weathered, but iconic. Visitors often stopped just to take pictures with it. The story had become something of a local legend, a neighborhood symbol of calm but calculated revenge. But what happened to the others? Jake never recovered professionally. After losing his job due to the viral video, his aggressive behavior, once excused his masculine confidence, was now seen for what it was: reckless and unstable. No company wanted the PR risk. Their marriage cracked quickly under pressure. Melissa, once proud of her real man, found herself shouldering the bills, reputation damage, and mounting resentment. Within 6 months, Melissa filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable embarrassment. Jake moved out of state shortly after. Rumor had it he tried applying to work at a landscaping company, only to be rejected after the manager recognized him from my garden trap video. The whole incident changed more than just my life. It became a catalyst for others to stand up against petty bullies, toxic family members, and passive-aggressive neighbors. The local council even asked me to speak at a community event on civic pride and peaceful conflict resolution. I smiled at the irony. Most importantly, my son started planting flowers with me. Every Saturday, he picked a new plant to add. We laughed. We bonded. The garden became our space, a sanctuary born from ashes. One day he looked up and asked, "Dad, do bullies always lose?" I knelt beside him, patted the dirt off my hands, and said, "Eventually, yes, because they forget something important. They're not planting anything, but we are." He smiled, then gently pressed a new seed into the soil. And just like that, the story of the ruined garden ended, not with vengeance, but with growth. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Daily Scroll Stories because here, betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks, and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp. Stay unbroken.